Alrighty, welcome everybody. Today is the Wednesday, April 19th Lunch and Learn. I am Jared Rodriguez. I am on the training team. Have worked on a couple of projects in the past and also been on the support team and some other departments. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. We do have one that was pre-submitted. This one is an interesting question. The initial question, hold on. I had it written down. Help me out, Roman. What did I do? Where did I put it? See, it was, yes, thank you. You are the man. All right. The initial question that I got asked was integration of S3 bucket with decisions. And by S3 bucket, they're talking about integrating with Amazon, Amazon integration to the Amazon file storage. So essentially, what you can use is in the My Apps folder, if you make sure you're viewing the App Store, and then you click on modules, there is an AWS module that includes a lot of flow steps that can help with integrations into AWS. Specifically, in the case of the question, it will also help you with integrating in S3 with S3 buckets. So once you install that module and you open up a flow, so let me go back to the list view. Let me go to my example flow. You will get this new under the integration category, Amazon AWS. You will have your own S3 category inside of it where you can create folders, delete from an S3 bucket, get file contents and all that fun stuff. If I drag over one of these steps, let's say I just get file contents. You just put in the bucket name, the file name, and the region, and you populate this information so that decision can get access to it. There is an article I will share. I don't know too much about AWS, I'll be honest. I just know the connection to the decision side. So I'll put this in the chat and make sure this gets posted for everyone. That may help with the connection to AWS part. But primarily in decisions, you'll be utilizing this module and interfacing with it there. I believe also, before I go on to the next question, I think you also will set up your Amazon integration settings. I think you'll once you install that module in the settings category of the settings folder, right? It's a little confusing, double settings. You will have the Amazon Web Services settings. And I believe if you edit this, this is where you give access and credentials to your specific AWS instance or environment. So those are the two kind of things you'll have to connect so that once you connect this up, then the steps will work. All right. That answers that question. Wade, you got your hand up. How can I help you?
So we got our flow hooked up to our ERP system where it calls it and gives it a couple parameters, and it gives back a flow tracking ID. How can we call an API to get the status by that flow tracking ID?
Ooh,
or is there
status?
Because that's all it gives back, or is there something else I can have it send back, or how do I look up this flow tracking ID just to see where's this process at?
Let's see, I'm gonna play around a little bit. So if we get flow tracking ID, I'm wondering, I'm just gonna create a little simple process. Because right, I know what you're talking about. I know this isn't your exact setup, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a simple start length flow async flow that runs, that just outputs a tracking ID. So I can be able to see where in my decision system that data appears. And then we can talk about, let me create new ways that we can leverage that to change information or what have you. So this is going to be, let me add a task. I probably shouldn't name it a test.
Their end goal is just to see, has it in this situation, it can be open, like in progress, or it can be approved or denied. So they just want to interrogate, like, what is the status of this individual?
Yeah. Perfect. Because I think, assign this, we'll just do this as test. As test. And then I'm going to assign this to, I'll assign this to everyone in this computer, or I can assign it to myself. Because I believe this thing should, haha. Yes, I know it, give me a task. Now if output, here's my tracking ID. And now I'm wondering, I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to go, let me open up another tab, my local. I'm wondering where this information is found because I know if we go into settings, administration, system tools, and event viewer, or actually flow management, there should be primary, yes, so primary tracking. Okay, so that's here in flow management. But what's in event viewer? I thought there was a code buckets. Right, there's a specific area and system tools that allows us to see what's running. I think that was flow management. And if you go to more, yeah, running flows. Perfect. So here's that flow tracking ID. And I'm wondering, let me edit this report. I just want to see if there's a status on it. Started by current step, data integrity, current flow name, data integrity issues. And that's just the running flows data source. So I'm assuming, let's see, we can get it from running flow. So I know the system report, we can run this report and it could spit you out the main flow and the number of steps on it. But I'm not sure if it gives us a state. Flow management, let's see if this one does. Stored workflow, okay. I'm gonna check one more location and then I'll ask offline. Because I believe, let's see if there's that actual, oh, I already have it open. I wonder if there's an actual step that allows us to get the status of
I did find there was somehow already set up. It was called fetch by process tracking ID for my individual one, but I can't get it to do anything.
Process tracking ID. What was it called?
In the steps I put in tracking, and then 2 came up. It was fetch process ID or fetch by process tracking ID, and then one has my it says flow data extensions credit approval request, which is my flow name. So I tried using that, but I don't know. I just figured there was a general API that, some GET call that you could call any process by the tracking ID and get the status.
Let's see. I'm gonna go to flow management, debugging, continue step data dependency iteration, pause flow, start step, wait on flow end step 2. And like, are you trying to determine if it's like the status is like, is it running or if it failed? Is that the 2 like criteria you're looking for?
They want to just, for whatever reason, say, hey, I have this tracking ID. This is all I get from decisions when I create give them parameters for a certain stop. And then I want to go get an update of that flow tracking ID. So it is the status, is it still in progress? Has it been approved? So therefore, is it complete?
I got you. Based on fetch entities, see if I can do running flows. I think that was the name of that. Oh, that actually might be a renamed data source. Flow structure, flow execution data structure, flow tracking floater, flow execution record. Let's see, flow ID. Let's try the flow ID. I wonder if that would give us any information. And equals flow ID will be that. So let's debug this and let's see if I get some results. It looks like I got no results. Okay, so the tracking ID, I wonder if it's the ID. I believe you can just call something like running flow service and current step on it. Check out flow execution service. That was my next step. Let's go to the ID field here. Let's go to constants. Let me run this and see if I get some information. Nope, no results still. Okay. So yeah, there is a folder, like VT said, there. If you go to integrations, there's also like internal services.
Well, I'm in like the internal services, and I'm looking at all these at flow execution service, but it's like get by different things besides like everything but the flow tracking ID. And that's all the post requests that they send to decisions. All they get back is a flow tracking ID. So that's all they have. So can I send, I guess general question, what is the solution to this issue? All that they get back right now is flow tracking ID. Is it possible to send them something else that they can look up? Should I go about different ways, or should I give them a totally different flow to look up this particular process?
So I just want to understand the context. So this is from an integration, and then people get a call back. It's just from the integration, the tracking ID of it. And you want to say something different, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
They say, hey, stop number 1, 2, 3. I'm going to send this to decisions. Okay, you're going to give me a unique ID back of this request. At any time in the future, I want to be able to go ahead and what is the status of that request? But I need some unique ID to go find it. The only thing currently they get is the flow tracking ID. And it seems like you can look up everything by entity name, entity ID, all this other things besides flow tracking ID.
Yeah. Flow tracking ID. I know I'd have to play around with it. I know there is a way to do it. I just don't know off the top of my head. I would have to play around with it. If you can, put your email in the chat and I'll play around with it and find out. Because a lot of it is just finding where that ID field is and what table stores it. And then I'm positive you can fetch it. And then you can even, like, based on the output of it, you can just say, hey, if it's status, it's good, or status, still active, or status, completed. Then you can output that as a piece of string variable to the end step. And it's just finding that specific table that houses it. Thanks, man. Flow tracking ID.
There is in the process folder where I'm storing it. I mean, it has flow tracking ID on there. It's just I don't know what get call I need to make to go find that.
So I mean, could you, if I do the flow tracking, there's like a flow status type. Flow set run, no, that's not it. Unit test, external form, nope. Because I knew you probably could fetch the process folder, and I think the process folder has some tracking data. I'll play around with it and I'll email back to you. Because in my head, I'm thinking like it's on the tip of my tongue. I just have to. I think the process would be somewhat effective. You have to fetch that process folder, and I think there's tracking information stored on that piece of data structure. And once, like, if you get that record associated with it, then you should be able to fetch that piece, I think. But I'll play around with it to confirm.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Question from Anon: Is it possible to use autocomplete control with some API lookup as the user stops typing? Let's see. Yeah, you can definitely do that. Autocomplete control. So like, well, actually, first let me try to clarify. If by autocomplete control, if you mean like running your data flow or running your active form flow in a way that allows you to read some text and say, hey, okay, this is the text that I just needed to go to the next of the process, then that form can autocomplete and you can go to the next stage of the process by utilizing the exit form step in the active form flow. If you're just talking about like having a lookup list or like a data flow, if you're just talking about looking up, like auto-completing what someone's searching their type text by, then that would just be an active form flow on a form. So let me just show that, because that'd be better just to show. I'm going to create a new one. New flow for testing. Show form step. Form, this is going to be form stops typing test. So in this form, let's say I have a drop-down list. I'm going to source this drop-down list from a data name. Let's see, data name, it's going to be list stuff. And then what I can do is when I click on the entire form or the entire background of this, I can add an active form flow that will run where is it though? Which one is it? And then, so basically what's going to happen is, so let me build this out all the way. As let's say I fetch this. With the results here, and I'm just going to say this is accounts. Let me just fetch the accounts from my system. Go to the end. And then I will I need to create data step so I can get just the strings, because that's all I need. And I need to make sure emails, make this a list. Select from flow. I'm gonna grab the form data. I'm gonna grab, actually, I'm not gonna grab the form data on this. I'm just gonna grab any results. I'm gonna grab all the emails, all email addresses on the output of this form data. We're gonna expand form data, combo box, item source. We're gonna change value on that. And so now when I run this, I'm just gonna call this test. I want to say run this at startup, non-selection change. And so now when I run this, and I just type admin, and it will come up with, it'll try to match with what's closest to the, to what is in that list. So I know that will work that way. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, but that's how I'm understanding it. We go to QA. Ooh, there's a lot of this stuff. And then for the autocomplete, because I think that's its own control. I know it's been a long time since I used that one. Autocomplete. List data items. Question, is it possible to use autocomplete control with something of a lookup list? Static list items. Oh, list of data items. Okay, yeah, so yes. So basically, yeah, in this list data items, what you would do is you would give it a data name, and then you can, with an active form flow, okay, now I understand the context, add, and it could be like fetch data from API, and then you can have this run and populate it and put it in there. And then whatever the user types, it will fetch that data to try to find it. I don't know if it's gonna be as dynamic as like if you type in some data and then it will try different sources of API call information. You might be able to configure the logic there, but it'd be a little complicated. But by default, it's just the same way that you would do with the drop-down list. You would just fetch your data. So if I use the fetch entity step and configure it the other way, then it would display that way. Oh, what happened to the? There's an email question. Jeremy asked, I have a custom merge NVelocity step in a for each loop. At the end, I notice, let's see, I have a custom merge NVelocity step in a for each loop. The step compiles a list of strings in HTML list. Okay. At the end of the loop, an email is sent with the list. We notice that the list is being appended to with each pass-through for each pass-through for each, let's see, appended to with each pass-through the for each instead of starting from an empty string, each pass-through. So is the goal here let's see, Jeremy, could you cut off mute and just expound upon this? I'm having difficulty understanding it.
Yeah, I think I missed this step. It's what I have is it's for eaching through like a list of people.
Okay.
That then I need to compile for each of them a slightly different list of items that go into the list. So it's really at the NVelocity is in a for each loop that's also inside another for each loop. So like the first person, it goes through, it compiles the list, sends the email, it's fine. We noticed because I didn't see the email until the last person went through, and the list of items in that email contained everybody's. So it had like 6 people in it. So like it had like 6 extra sets of items in the for each in the list. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing to kind of fix that for my knowledge is I put in the beginning of the bigger for each, I put a create data step and changed the value of the merged string to null, so it starts with a fresh empty string each time. But I thought that once it comes out of the loop, it would start fresh without having to have intervention in that. So I just thought that was odd.
Are you using like that null value, like to have like a rule there? Because that, I'm assuming how it works, right, is you get your for each. Let me see if I can display what I'm understanding here. It's like, right, like you have your for each. All right, and let's say I just have create data. And this is just going to be like list of emails, right? List of emails. It's going to loop through that list. And then with inside of this, you're going to do this will just be like a placeholder step. So we'll do HTML stuff next. And then after it does all the HTML stuff for one person, then it's going to go, then you're going to hit another for each step. Is that
inside that loop, there's another for each.
Oh, okay. So we're going to go here.
Yeah. So it grabs the items it needs to compile into a list, and then for each is through those to compile the list into from just a list of strings into an HTML formatted string as an unordered list. And when that NVelocity step that I'm using to compile that, because I need to add the HTML tags to it, then the next time it passes through the outside for each loop, it's apparently just appending to that list instead of making a new list or a new string, I guess. I'm using the wrong word there.
Sure. So something like this, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the stuff, then it goes through, and then obviously this just ends. Okay.
Which I thought it was working fine. Just recently, just yesterday, I updated to version 8.11 and then got the email today that this was happening. So I don't know if that had anything to do with that happening or not.
It might. I mean, that definitely might have.
Yeah,
Let me see if there's anything on the release notes.
Yeah, let me check when this original thing was created.
Well, I don't think there was any. Well, let's see. I don't think there's any NVelocity changes. Velocity. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this was done today originally. So, so it's something that's changed in 8.11, I think.
There definitely could be. I'm not seeing any. I'm looking at the flow category. I don't see any changes to the steps or to like the NVelocity step in particular. But that could be something to definitely like have a support team member like review on a call just to make sure. I don't think so. But if that's the only thing that has changed, then it's a logical conclusion that something in the update may have broken something.
Okay. As I believe that, I mean, I hadn't got any negative feedback before today that this was compiling weird. So this was the first I've seen that it was doing that. So
gotcha. Because based on your process, yeah, it should behave okay. But yeah, there's something there's gotta be something with that update. The logic sounds sound to me. All right. Next question is, what if I have 1 million records and not want to fetch that in memory? So utilizing lookup API to fetch smaller chunks. Let's see. I'm not sure what the context of that question is. But we have another one from Manal. Says, is there any way to change the task response email to some other email address? Task response email. Is there any way to change the task response email? Is this referring to Manal? Could you give me some more detail?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I just have, so we just recently upgraded to version 8 and we were on 6.2. So there's a workflow where on the assignments, let me actually open it. I'm sorry, I have it open to right here with me.
Sure.
In front of me. So it's the send merge step where you send merge email where usually it says like support@decisions.com. And for us, we change it to task response dev at our company.com. And then, but there's a workflow. We had this project created in like 2 years ago where they changed that to like, for example, bitcompare.com, and it was working fine until we upgraded. And whenever the user sends approval emails, like click to send approve via email or click to send reject via email, it doesn't do it until you change it to task response dev at kindermorgan.com or the company. How is that something related with the upgrade, or do we have to change it? I was curious, like, how does that work?
Is it supposed to go back to task@kindermorgan.com? Like that's the expected URL? Like when a user clicks on it? Okay.
So in prod, it says it's set up right now, send merge email from bitcompare@kindermorgan.com. So it works completely fine. They send a approval email, it gets approved, and then it goes to the next approver. But when we upgraded dev recently to version 8, it wasn't, whenever you would do click to send approve from email, it wouldn't do it until I went in and changed that bitcompare@kindermorgan.com to task response dev at kindermorgan.com. So I'm wondering like if it's not taking that email in that version 8, or do we have to set up something so it can like catch that?
To allow that to redirect. I wonder if it's due to that flow-based portal URL, because this is in your dev environment and it's going to that. Go ahead.
Yes. And we're recently about to upgrade to prod. So I wanted to make sure that if that's an issue, I'll go ahead, change those beforehand until like it breaks.
Yeah, I believe that's what that is. But with the little context that I know, I would just get a support person on the call.
Okay.
And just to have them verify. But I believe that's all you'd have to change from that. And typically in decisions, if when you craft text merges, excuse me, you would want to make sure that you're using like the flow data and the base portal URL as a variable. This way, if you do upgrade to or like push this to prod or put it in another server, it will just grab the base portal URL from it, and you don't have to manually change it. So what could have happened is maybe this was statically set, and maybe when it migrated to the dev environment, it doesn't navigate to that URL because that server's not does not have that URL. That could be what's happening. But I would definitely like submit a support ticket, just have a support person just, walk you through or just verify.
Gotcha. And then I also have one more quick question.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we have a data structure that I can find it in dev, but whenever I go search that same data structure, same name in prod, it shows up. But then when I right click on it, it doesn't give me the edit option. Rather, it just gives me view serialization info, add, or dependencies. Do you know, like, can somebody just lock the flow? Because this was created by our ex-manager who's not within our company anymore. And it's like, I cannot open that data structure. I cannot even open a containing folder. So how do I know, like, how to find that in prod?
How to find the data structure or find the setting and change it?
Just that data structure. It's a data structure that is a setup for our corporate directory. It's in dev, but I can't find it in prod. So I'm wondering if there's any way, and I'm in complete admin, to find that data structure.
There's a couple of tools that you can use. One, let's see if I have a couple. Right, if you know the data structure, you can type it and search it.
Yes.
See, I think there's a cell paste. So that I know that is one way. Another thing you can do is in the settings cog here, and in administration and system. It might be system tools or designers. System tools. Nope. I think it's designers. And if we can do, it might not be designers. Hold on. I just showed a dev this today, so I know it's here.
The table definitions.
It wasn't table definitions. It was data structure status. And then here we can search for all the data structures that are loaded. So if that, I'm presuming that data structure should be there, but this is another report that you can utilize to find all the data structure. This one's more of a recursive detail of all the data types and decisions, even the default ones. So 9 times out of 10, you'll probably find it by searching through here. So for example, if I had a search and I just type compound, then I can find, okay, I have a compound interest flow structure, simple flow structure that's loaded. So if you know the name of it, this would be a good way to search it to see if it's there.
Gotcha. So you just went to more and then data structure status?
Yep. So this is, oops, I didn't want to do that. It's a settings cog, administration, event viewer, and then you click on more, and then you'll have data structure status, and that reports over all of the decisions data structures in the system. Gotcha.
So I do search it, and it's not in there, which is so weird. But it shows up.
Go ahead.
But it just shows up. Yeah, it just shows up, and it's nowhere to be found. And it just, like, whenever you right click on it, it shows view serialization info. There's no way like an admin can log a data structure, right? So they can only see it for the certain user or make it private completely for them.
Yeah, there's no locking like that. If you're a full admin, you should have access to edit it. So I'm wondering, yeah, I would actually submit a support ticket and have a support team look at it, because that sounds like it's a weird behavior of the system. And did this happen after an upgrade or?
No, in prod it is, we haven't upgraded yet.
Okay.
So it's just still 6.2.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would just have a support person take a look at it, because there's to my knowledge, there's no way that someone could just lock a data structure, say it's only for this user, and then change it to where no one else can have access to it. I know you can do permissions to say, hey, people can't have access to view this folder and things like that, but I don't think we have that level of detail there.
Gotcha, because this is a really sensitive data structure that only certain people can use it, like should be able to see it.
Now, here's another thing to think about. Maybe you can talk with us on the support team member. Were there any encryption or PII or anything like that used on that data structure, since it, I'm presuming, contains sensitive information?
Oh, okay, gotcha. And if it does contain that, then I wouldn't be able, like, how would you still see it even though as an admin?
Yeah, then what would need to happen is you would have to have and this is permitting the context of an upgrade, which may not be the use case, so this could be left field. But I know when you upgrade, you have to make sure you transfer the keys.dat file from the previous environment so that it can still have the key to read any PII fields or things like that.
Okay, gotcha. So I'll put in a ticket and I'll discuss about you said encryption and PII. Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, so regarding the autocomplete, what if I have 1 million records and I want to fetch that in memory? So utilizing lookup API to fetch something similar with chunks of data. Let's see. I mean, you can create lookup lists and decisions. So I would probably leverage that if you just need a lookup list that you can store. Or yeah, I think that'd be the best way. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with the lookup lists. So I would be what I would recommend, or I would try that avenue and see if that works. Any other questions? You want to create a SIGIP job for that? Let's see. I'll ask this question in the support team. Then I'll try to find what they recommend. Best case scenario is I would actually advise submitting a support ticket and maybe have someone walk you through your specific setup and see what you're trying to do to get an answer to that question. And if it is in decisions, autocomplete control needs to fetch the whole list and records into memory. What's the so do you have any context of like what you're trying to build and why you want to approach the autocomplete autocomplete control that way? Because there could be maybe we're thinking about this architecture problem and not in the wrong way, and maybe there's another way we can tackle it, and that could give us some benefit of utilizing other parts of decisions. Just use control as a search field, but not overflow the memory. Sure, but your context is for 1 million records, right? So if that's your context, maybe we can limit that to where it doesn't need to be 1 million or more records, right? And so then we can use other processes to filter out that data. And then we could do it with smaller chunks of data. That is why I want to trigger. That is why I wanted that to trigger lookup list on stop typing. Let's do this. We won't try typing it. Okay, good. I got this from there. Sure. Yeah. No, I understand that the future is possible with the drop lines. I just don't know. Like, well, I'm thinking like, when the context of what if someone types the wrong, like the wrong piece of text, right? And then it fetches the data, and then I got to type the text again. Then you're still querying a large set of data multiple times. I'm not sure. Well, stop typing will give the initial feature. That seems like what you're looking for, but it has a lot of probability for user error, and then you're just fetching millions and millions of records via an API and just doing a lot of chatter over the network. So best case scenario, what I would advise is I would say if that is, I would submit that query is handled by API. No, that I understand, but I understand that the query can be handled by API, but if I'm a user and I type something and I get the wrong thing, then I have to type something new to get the right thing. And so then I have to query that large data set again. So that's why I'm more trying to wonder if maybe there's a better route for this architecture problem that we can tackle it with instead of doing it that way. But if it's just a new feature request for like, hey, let's add the typing, excuse me, oops, test stuff. I mean, we can definitely, I don't see a problem with having that added to the autocomplete box. I was just more trying to understand that specific use case environment. It is quicker than fetching everything into memory. Sure. Let me add another one. But yeah, I can definitely submit this feature request. Because from the current version we have, we can't do that. But we can definitely submit a feature request. Yeah, if you have more context of the use case scenario, like what project you're building, I'm curious about that, because I think from my perspective, it still seems like it has a lot for user error. Because if I have to type it again, or I mistype something, then it queries a large set of data, or then I type the wrong thing. So but I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar. I haven't used the autocomplete box that often, so I would definitely talk with a support person. And I'll definitely submit that feature request for you. So. Any other question? But still queries memory if you have everything in memory. Wasn't the goal that you wanted originally it not to be in memory? Because if that's the case, it seems like if you just run that thing on startup, then you'd be fine too. Sure. Any other questions? All right. I'll give you a couple more minutes for questions if there's no questions. Now, and the lunch and learn for today. All righty. If there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. So that concludes our daily lunch and learn for April 19th. We have one more tomorrow with Ashley Wilson. She's from our pre-sales engineering team, has built many POCs for our team and has demonstrated the capability of the product. So she'll be definitely a good person to attend for tomorrow. And then we will pick up next week. All right. Thank you so much for attending. I'll see you guys next time.